It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Day.
Six at the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Monday, and it's a short week, so a lot of people are going to be pretending to work for the next couple of days. That includes your boss.
Today's show is sponsored by frog-flavored ice cream. Tastes like chicken, but it's frog.
Yum. Well, I can't wait to let you try it. You can get back to me on how that worked out for you.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. Real quick before I get into the main news today, let me shift gears. I had all this stuff lined up, and I thought I'd better tell you about it first, because I just told, for example, Miss Mary about it. She's going to be coming in just a couple of minutes here, and I said all of the roads are really slick out there. I drove to work this morning on nothing but black ice. So we get in my area, got a little bit of snow yesterday. It wasn't a ton. It was actually kind of nice. But it started with a lot of rain coming down, and then it turned into some snow. But even that was not cold enough to make it stick. So that turns it into more water. And then finally it got cold enough to turn it into snow and make it stick. So this morning I got up with, there's quite a bit of white all over the place. But underneath that, wow, it is, for some of you, really slick out there. Let me tell you who I'm talking to. If you are, let's go from, Wheatland all the way up through Douglas, Casper, and we're just going to keep on heading north from there, over in Gillette, Claremont, U2, that's all just icy conditions. If you're over in Lost Springs, Manville, Lusk, that's a lot of ice and slick that you have out there, all sorts of black ice. Also, if you're, let's say, in the Casper area and you're heading, either north or you're on 20, basically, 2026. About two-thirds of that road is going to be really slick out there. Also, if you're heading down to Muddy Gap and so on. Now, what's surprising to a lot of people is if you take a look at I-80, you're pretty much doing fine across most of I-80 because that's not really where it hits. So that section up there, which is mostly the northeastern side of Wyoming, got a lot of slick this morning. It's just black ice all over the place. Careful about that. There is on, the Wake Up Wyoming site this morning, but Don Day will give you an extended forecast at 6:45 and join me at 7:45 live to talk about road conditions, not just today, but through Thanksgiving, because a lot of you will be traveling. So will I, as a matter of fact. And so that also there is a road forecast that happens later on this morning as well. Also comes from day weather. That road forecast ought to give you a good idea what happens on through Thanksgiving for those people who want to get on the road. Okay, now let's get back into some other news, which is something I shouldn't be surprised about this. Let's go to the University of Wyoming. Last week, I was telling you that UW was having meetings and to try to figure out what to do because the House and Senate had passed a bill into law about gun-free zones. And this was supposed to settle the issue with the University of Wyoming and instruct them to go ahead and set it up so students who wanted to concealed carry into various buildings around UW could do so. If they had a concealed carry permit, et cetera, they could go ahead and do that. And so UW started holding meetings on this to figure out how they were going to proceed. Well, they figured out how to proceed. They are sending it back to the Capitol. Basically, we can't agree on what to do here. They would rather not have gun-free zones like that at UW. We can't decide what to do here, so we're sending it back to the Capitol. Here's what the story is. Got to be careful now. It's a Wyoming public media story. Always be careful of bias in Wyoming public media, but here we go. Story says University of Wyoming Board of Trustees voted against allowing concealed carry firearms into campus buildings during its public meeting on Friday. In a narrow vote, 5 trustees voted in favor of a rule change, while 6 voted against. Quote, I think we all have fundamental beliefs, kind of in your soul, said the trustee Dave Fall, who voted against the proposal, and a fundamental belief I have had ever since I got involved in education that guns do not belong in schools, period. Well, and here's where I would have that discussion with them. No, I agree with you. I would agree that guns don't belong in schools. But making a law that law-abiding citizens can't carry those guns just means that the whole school is unarmed. Yeah, when the bad guy with the gun shows up. So we always get back to that part of the discussion, do we? A survey, the story says, this fall revealed a majority of students and employees didn't want guns in the building. The survey and public comments went across a variety of forms. I feel like we're being pushed into this to appease something that might be coming and might be even worse, said another trustee. Okay, so here's what happens now. It goes back to the Wyoming House and Senate. This next legislative session, and I don't know, they've just heard about it themselves, just like I've just heard about this morning. You're just now hearing about it. They've just heard about this. And so now the Wyoming House and Senate have to figure out what to do with UW on this. So UW couldn't make up its mind and decided we're not doing anything. We're not changing anything. You legislators figure it out, is what I'm getting out of this article. So my thought is, okay, well, the legislators need to go figure it out somehow or other. This is a debate that's been going on for quite a while. And every time our legislators agree on something, whatever it's supposed to be, it seems that UW doesn't want to comply. So for me, part of it is not even the gun issue. It's is UW supposed to be a separate entity? Well, the thing is, in some respects, they're treated that way. But on the other hand, they still have to follow the law, whatever the law is, whether they agree with that law or not. And that gets back to us continuing to have the discussion over what is really safe. I come down on the side, and I think many of you do as well, that if you put up a sign that says gun-free zone and we don't allow guns in here, all that does is tell the bad guy with a gun that everybody there is unarmed. And we've had this discussion many, many times before. So we'll see what the Wyoming legislators have to do with it. Jim is in Casper. Let's see. The Senate passes a law. Doesn't that mean, hang on a second here. Doesn't that mean they don't get a say? I thought so too. I thought if it was passed as a law that UW just had to do it. This is going to get interesting in this next legislative session. We'll see what happens.
Florida has the worst winters anywhere in the country, maybe the world. So, how do you figure that? It's science. What happens up north when they get a bad winter, huh? They get a couple of inches of snow, they lose some power, so what? Boo-hoo. You know what happens in South Florida when it falls below 41 degrees? The iguanas in the trees freeze up around the trees. That's it! The iguanas go into a coma. They don't even have the decency to die. Walt Disney frozen out of the tree. What happened to you, northern boy? Oh, you had to shovel your car out of snow? Yeah, sounds horrible. Is it raining baby friggin' dinosaurs where you live? No, then shut the heck up. It's iguana get it down here, pal. You can't just shovel that away like snow. They wake up, they want to fight like a drunk Irish grandfather on St. Patty's Day. It's like Sharknado, but with lizards who have switchblades and bad attitudes, all right? Give me Maine in December during a snowstorm. It sounds pleasurable.
Glenn Woods. He talks to you, not at you. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is Wake Up Wyoming on K2 Radio.
6:22 is the time. Wake up, Wyoming. It's a Monday, but a short week. Remember, since we're off Thursday and Friday, let's work this out. We're off, most of us, Thursday and Friday, except for those who work in retail. Sorry about that, guys. You're just off, Thursday, and some of you are just part of Thursday. But for most of us, though, it's a short week. So we go into work today to get a few things done to prepare for the long week, but most everybody is pretending to work, and that includes the boss. And we get to Tuesday, that's even worse. By Wednesday, no one is really working anymore. Everybody's just pretending to work, except for those people in retail that are getting ready for Black Friday. Sorry, guys. And then we get, of course, to Thursday, Friday. No one's actually, working at all on those days, except for those people in retail. Oh, by the way, I'm going to have to write this up. I wrote up an article for you guys on, last week. And it was the top 7 Thanksgiving horror movies. And yes, there is such a thing. Now, I got to rewrite one in particular, though, because there is a horror movie called Black Friday. It is it's hysterical, and it's supposed to be funny. That's the point of it. Imagine that the doors of a big box toy store are opened up on Black Friday, and all of the customers come in like a zombie horde. Well, what if they slowly start becoming a zombie horde? They actually are, by the end of it, a zombie horde. And it is hysterical. Bruce Campbell is one of the stars of this, who, by the way, if you... Let me see. Let's go back to... Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go back to some of the movies you might know. Of course, he's from Evil Dead fame. Bruce Campbell, Evil Dead. He's the big star of those movies. Bubba Hotep. He was in Escape from L.A. He does this movie, Black Friday. It's absolutely hysterical. I'll write up something about it so you guys can read that and maybe watch the movie. I found it. I was able to watch it in time for the holidays and for free, too. But I'll explain all of that when I write up the article. Okay. And Red and Casper says, okay, Florida winters suck. Shoveling iguanas does not sound like fun. If you missed it when I went into the last commercial break there, I played a comedian who was saying that Florida winters suck more than our winters. Because when we have snowfall here, it's just some snowfall that we have to shovel, and we have to be careful when we drive. But when it gets cold in Florida, iguanas start to fall out of the trees. Try shoveling those little guys. It's basically little dinosaurs falling out of the trees, which makes Florida winter a whole lot worse than Wyoming winters altogether. All right, now, back to the news. School board in Wyoming wants Wyoming to pass transgender bathroom laws. Again, got to be careful reading this. It's a Wyoming public media story, which is prone to bias. So here's the story. School board in Powell is pushing state lawmakers to create a statewide policy on which bathrooms which transgender students can use. Which ones would those be? Park County School District number 1 Board of Trustees passed a resolution earlier this month that says they want Wyoming legislators to pursue a similar policy to what lawmakers in Oklahoma passed. The policy would require students to use the bathroom based on their biological sex, not the gender they identify with, which would also require students to provide a single occupancy restroom for those people who, they would just feel more comfortable with that. And districts not in compliance with the policy would face a decrease in state funding. So Carrie Peters' daughter, who attends Powell High School, says her daughter hasn't run into a boy or a transgender person in the bathroom, but she worries about it. Well, it's on the news all the time, so... Quote, she's gone through great lengths to find out how to avoid the situation, she said. She uses the restroom at certain times to avoid what she thinks could be a problem. But she definitely has made it clear that she's more alert and more fearful and backs the policy. Jerry Gardner is a former teacher and parent at 2 Powell High School students of hers are attending school. She worries that the rules would further stigmatize transgender students. She said instead of making bathrooms safer, which there are methods to make bathrooms safer, including supervision, really, It actually puts the responsibility on the students who are already at risk, and I don't agree with that at all. Again, just use the bathroom for your biological sex. It's just the simplest way to do that. Same thing when you go to take a shower after gym. The resolution passed by school board members says that the district will adopt a policy after one of the two scenarios, whichever comes first. Wyoming passed legislation, and the state of Wyoming needs to pass legislation on this, which is something I don't know if it will come up this legislative session, but it'll come up at some point when Wyoming finally, by some kind of legislation, some law, just makes a policy on this and sticks with it. In Wyoming, we've been one of those states who we like to leave our local schools up to the locals. We don't like the state running our schools. We definitely don't like the federal government running our schools. But some local schools are turning to the state now and saying, just make the rule, really. Can you? Just go ahead and write a law or something like that. So that might be up for discussion in this next legislative session. Coming up on 6:30, local news coming away after a local news update on the weather forecast, and you and I go rolling back into it. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
And we're back. Sorry, we were busy tricking pescatarians into eating Rocky Mountain oysters. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Wake Up Wyoming. So I will have at 6:45 extended weather forecast, dawn day, and that includes some of the weather that you can expect as we get into the holidays, because some of you will be traveling, so will I, and road conditions and et cetera. This morning, especially if you're, let's go from Wheatland on up, on that side of the state. A lot of slick roads this morning, depending on where you are. And then we'll get some more of that, especially for the rest of Wyoming, as we get into Tuesday, Wednesday. That'll be explained as part of it. So one of the stories that I had this morning, it was a comedy bit that I played. A comedian was saying that Florida winter is worse than winter up north, like Wyoming, like the New England states, because we just get some snow and ice. When it gets cold enough in Florida, iguanas start falling out of the trees. Yeah, try shoveling lizards, especially when they start waking up. So Tumbleweed and KC says, Paul and Casper says, I believe some of those iguanas are mostly dead. Given a proper warm-up, they spring to life. Well, there's the thing. They're lizards. So when it gets cold enough, they basically go into like a cold hibernation. When it gets warm enough, they wake up and start running around again. But when it gets cold, there's actually warnings in Florida for iguanas falling out of trees. So what do you want to deal with, snow or that? I'll leave it up to you guys. Now, talking about, there's Powell School is one of those schools that's trying to figure out what to do with transgenders in the bathroom, which really hasn't been a problem in many schools in Wyoming, mostly not. But still, if it were to happen, people are wondering what to do about it. So Powell School says they would like the legislators to figure out. Traditionally in Wyoming, we don't do it that way. We let our local schools figure out their local rules. We like to keep things local. But Powell's among some other schools saying, would the legislators please just go ahead and pass the law? So Tumbleweed and KC says transgendered kids should use the faculty bathroom since surely the teachers' unions support trans kids, problem solved. Well, that would be a way as far as using the toilet facilities. But what about when it comes time, gym is over, they're done with gym, everybody's got to go take a shower, get dressed, get back to class. Now where do they go? What about during sporting events as well, locker rooms, stuff like that? Because that's been an issue in the past, and that's one of those where a lot of people, the girls especially, are saying, can we just please keep the girls' locker room and the girls' showers for girls and not have this issue? So that's another thing that maybe our state legislators will have to solve. I don't know if they're going to pick it up because, again, it has been offered as legislation before, but Wyoming traditionally likes to keep the decisions at a local level. This is one of those cases where I think they might not. Again, legislation has been offered before. We might just go ahead and make some rules in the state of Wyoming at the state level and tell the schools they have to comply, but that would run into how we traditionally do things in the state of Wyoming. So, all right. We'll see what... Oh, on that note, and I want to get into this a little bit later this morning. This is something that I think will be easier as far as solving the problem of transgender, who gets to use what bathroom and showers and so on. Because Wyoming is actually becoming a bit more conservative. One of the stories I came across this morning, and I want to look into the numbers a little bit more on this, but this is Cowboy State Daily. Newcomers to Wyoming, and I know a lot of you folks are worried about people moving into the state of Wyoming from other states like California, and does that make us more of a purple state or even a blue state at some point? Story headline says, newcomers to Wyoming, Montana more likely to be Republican transplants. In other words, and I've met a few people who lived in states like Illinois, for example, and have had just enough. And they're looking for a refuge, and so they came to Wyoming for that refuge. And part of that, one couple that I know moved to Wyoming with their kids from Illinois. And he was a teacher there. He's a teacher here now. And one of the reasons that they moved here was they just could not stand what was happening in public schools. And they wanted public schools to be safe for their kids in their eyes as conservative thinkers. So they left and they moved to Wyoming. And then they picked the smallest possible town they could. And they feel a whole lot safer there. There's quite a few people who've moved to Wyoming for exactly those reasons, not just as adults, but for their kids. And so I want to dig into the numbers a little bit more, because that's going to affect also the outcome of what our school boards look like, what our legislative look like, how we already vote conservative as it is, but, as imagine Wyoming getting even more red. And we have a few little blue spots, like pimples, basically, that would be, over in Teton County and then around Laramie, where the university is. So if we could just pop those pimples, we would just be fine after that, right? All right, coming up on 6:42, Don Day has an extended forecast, which includes road conditions for some of you, especially for those traveling during the holidays. Wake up,
It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio. Join the show at 888-97-WOODS.
6:48 the time. Off we go to the ice box. Frank Gambino's waiting by. So, Frank, I played a little bit from the comedian. I got a bit of a discussion going between me and the listeners out there that Florida has worse winters than we do here up north.
In terms of what?
Well,
snow?
The comedian's point was, okay, so we have to deal with snow and ice, right?
Yeah.
When it gets cold enough in Florida, they have iguanas falling out of the trees.
Yeah.
You want to deal with that instead?
I just stay away from the trees.
Yeah, and you want to shovel that?
I'm not shoveling that.
And then they start waking up.
Well, then hit them with the broom.
Yes, when they wake up,
hit them with the shovel.
They're not really in a good mood when they wake up.
Hit them with the shovel.
Would you rather go out there and hit iguanas with shovels, or would you rather shovel snow?
That's a good one.
That's what the comedian's point is. In his opinion, he would rather deal with the snow up in like New England states or here in Wyoming than have to deal with the iguanas in Florida.
Yeah. Okay. I'll you know what? I'll actually give him that.
Okay. Yeah. I also don't like having to deal with the Canadians because growing up in Florida, when it gets really cold up north, the Canadians come down in vast numbers to Florida.
Oh, absolutely.
Sort of take over the state there for a while. So depends on how much you want to deal with the Canadians too.
Well, they drink beer, and I'm okay with that.
You're okay with the Canadians?
I've met some Canadians in Florida. Okay. You know what? They don't wear jackets. It doesn't matter what day it is.
No, it's perfectly nice out there. Okay, now, just a side note. I just get it out of the way. UW this weekend.
They did lose, but they did play better.
Okay, see?
It was compelling all the way to the end.
Okay. That's what I was asking? Just look good losing.
They did. Kinda.
Okay.
Let's put it this way. They were respectable.
They're respectable. Were they competitive?
In this game, they were, yes. And then both teams have their deficiencies, but the Cowboys were competitive. So they can say, you know what? You hung right with these guys.
Okay.
The bottom line is,
you
still lost.
Okay. No, I understand they still lost. I just wanted them to look respectable, not look like they didn't know what they were doing out there, but at least they played a good game.
Yes, they were respectable.
Okay.
Absolutely.
One more to lose and they're done.
Pretty much.
I hate to say it that way.
I know.
Yeah, but basically they got, who's up next?
They will be at Washington State this week.
Oh, this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that'll be done and we'll move. They'll have some decisions to make and maybe a long winter for those guys.
Yeah, well, and you just said it. And after that, they have some decisions to make.
Yes, indeed. All right, over the weekend in college football, the Wyoming Cowboys were respectable in their loss to Boise State, 17-13 on Saturday night in Laramie. Boise came in rated 12th in the country. And the Cowboy defense, especially with a makeshift defensive line, really showed some fortitude. Now, even though Boise State running back Ashton Genty had 169 yards rushing, got 61 yards on one touchdown run, and that TD really hurt Wyoming in the end. Cowboy offense got a first half touchdown pass from Caden Anderson to Justin Stevenson, but Anderson left the game at halftime in concussion protocol. So back in the lineup was quarterback Evan Swoboda, and his difficulties this year have been well documented. He was 6 of 13 for 87 yards and sacked twice, and still struggles with touch. Amazing as it sounds, Boise State at 10-1 played their worst game of the year and won. Wyoming is 2-9. They played their best game of the year and lost. Cowboys conclude the season on Saturday at Washington State in Pullman. National Football League, the Denver Broncos are 7-5 after beating a bad Las Vegas Raiders team 29-19 on the road yesterday afternoon. Bronco quarterback Bo Nix 25 of 42 for 273 yards and a couple of touchdown passes as Denver rallied from a 13-9 halftime deficit. Broncos are making strides and they are in the playoff picture with 7 wins. They'll take on Cleveland next Monday night. Wyoming Cowboy basketball team beat Southeastern Louisiana on Friday afternoon in Laramie 64-61. To get to 4-1 overall. Pokes had a tough time shooting the basketball at just 37% and made just 5 3-pointers out of 22 attempts. UW still struggles from the free throw line, going 57% in that game on Friday. They were led in scoring by Jordan Nesbitt with 13 points and 15 rebounds. Really good game for him. Cowboys will be in the Cancun tournament starting tomorrow, taking on Tulane at 4 p.m. Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team improved to 2-3 as they drew Colorado Christian 80-54 on Friday morning in Laramie. Allison Furley, the Douglas High School grad, led the way with 22 points on 10 of 12 in the field and also had a dozen rebounds, so she was great. Cowgirls will be in a tournament in Puerto Rico this week. They'll play Drake on Thursday, Norfolk State on Friday, and Virginia on Saturday. That's it in sports.
Wait, the Cancun thing?
The Cowboys are in Cancun. Oh. The Cowgirls are in Puerto Rico.
Wow, okay.
So promoters put on these tournaments in nice places.
Yeah.
They actually, one of the bigger tournaments years ago used to be the Great Alaska Shootout.
Right.
They had, they brought in all these great teams. So that's what, there's tournaments in Cancun, there's tournaments in Bermuda, or, all over the place.
Wow.
And you go and you play a couple of games, you relax in the sun.
Yeah.
All good.
I did know. See, you should go ahead and put in saying, I need to go see this game, and have them pay for a trip for you to go to Cancun.
By the time I get there, they've already played the game, and then I'd have to come back.
But you don't tell them that. You just tell the bosses that the game is in Cancun and you need to go.
Yes,
okay.
I'm
just trying to help out, Frank.
That's a good idea. I like that idea.
No iguanas. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. Still, I know the world's on fire, the situation's dire. A lot of work and courage gonna be required, but I'm just happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. Still, I know the world's on fire, the situation's dire. A lot of work and courage gonna be required, but
Clean deck.
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Monday, but remember now, the closer we get to Wednesday, the more people are just going to pretend to work and not really get anything done. And that includes the boss.
Today's show is sponsored by frog-flavored ice cream. Tastes like chicken, but it's frog.
Yum. You let me know how that works out.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilet, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. Okay, off to some bigger issues, which we're going to have to deal with in the coming months as Trump gets into office. And, of course, this has to do with illegal immigration. And one of the headlines that I have here says, Trump's new border czar. Much unlike the last border czar, who even denied later on that she was the border czar when she did nothing about it, that would be Harris. Trump's border czar pointedly warned sanctuary cities that they could be prosecuted if they harbor illegal aliens. So here's the story. President Donald Trump's border czar is warning sanctuary city of dire consequences if they refuse to turn over illegal immigrants, saying he'll seek the Justice Department authority to charge officials with obstruction and harboring if they don't turn over illegal border crossers into their custody. Quote, they need to be aware of a couple of things. Number one, in pending federal law enforcement officers, it's a crime. Number two, if you knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from ICE, it's a crime that's actually on the books. So don't cross that line. Former acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement was named earlier this month by Trump to coordinate all border security issues starting January 20th. So he has plans. Both the president-elect and this gentleman, have been very clear they intend to launch mass deportations of more than 14 million illegal aliens. Now, let me stop there because you know the rest of that. This next headline really gets me. Hey, Colorado, you're up. Denver's mayor says he'd happily go to jail to protect illegal immigrants. In response to what I just said there, Denver's mayor, Mike Johnston, really loves illegal aliens, says the story. In a city troubled with, one gang, remember the gang that was trying to did take over that apartment complex. He thinks that he and his fellow Denverites will stand together, shoulder to shoulder, to prevent deportation of illegal immigrants. I'm thinking it doesn't work out for him that way. So here's an interview that happened.
About civil disobedience, you've mentioned that a couple of times now. Would you be willing to participate in those as the mayor of Denver? Would you be willing to go out and protest these things?
I would. If I believe that our residents are having their rights violated, if I think things are happening that are illegal or immoral or un-American in our city, I would certainly protest it. And I would expect other residents would do the same.
Trump's new border czar, Tom Homan, has said that he is willing to arrest leaders like yourself for standing in the way of these policies that they want to enact. Would you be willing to go to jail for these things?
Yeah, I'm not afraid of that. And I'm also not seeking that. I think the goal is we want to be able to negotiate with reasonable people how to solve hard problems. Republican and Democratic presidents in the past have all tried to find solutions to these problems. President Reagan helped people get access to work so they could stay and support themselves. Biden and Harris worked on restricting entry at the border to close down. There are a lot of ways to approach this problem.
Hold on. Okay. Biden and Harris, he just said, Biden and Harris worked on restricting the number of people coming across the border. When did that happen? Okay. Next, he says he's not afraid. He's not worried about going to jail. He'll do that. Well, usually because of how this works. When someone gets arrested like this, like him, and goes to jail, even some protesters on the street, okay, so they eventually see a judge, and that lasts for maybe part of the afternoon. And by the end of the afternoon, they're out again. And so what really happened to him? What were really the consequences here? And the answer is none. I think he's not worried about it because he understands there's not really going to be any consequences. But what if there actually were? That's what I would like to see, that we actually had some real consequences here. Okay, so let me see. Oh, here's a headline. A guy named Greg Price is posting this. Denver Mayor Mike Johnson, Colorado, I will use police to block the feds from deporting illegals. So you police officers down there in Denver need to understand that he's going to try to order you to block feds from deporting illegals. One day later, illegal alien in Denver is charged with raping a 14-year-old girl. Okay, let's see. What was this next one here? And while we are willing to put him in jail for protesting criminals, I'm just reading things that are popping up on Twitter because of this. Oh, I like this one guy named Eric. His terms are acceptable. Off to jail he goes. Yeah, okay, so there's quite a few people down in Denver that are going, you want to be arrested? Go ahead, be arrested. That's fine. So we're going to come across some people on the left like this, some mayors of some cities who are going to say, fine, we'll deal with it. Go ahead, arrest. I would like to see, out of threats that are being made at this point, and in my mind, they're just a lot of threats, but I would love to see them actually carried out. Wouldn't you love to see the mayor of Denver arrested, perp walked? And this time, it's not just he's released a little bit later that afternoon on some $50 bond or something like that, and he's out again, and the trial never really amounts to anything. Wouldn't you love to see actual consequences for that? Because as the incoming Trump appointee has pointed out, there are actual laws in place here in dealing with people who harbor illegals. There are laws on the books, and all he has to do is just enforce those laws. So what do you think that ends up looking like? All right. So, all right, threats have been made on both sides here. People are puffing out their chests and, standing their ground, I guess, if you will. Easy to do now. When we get to January 20th is when we really see what happens. I really want to see our Trump appointee, along with Donald Trump, actually enforce these laws. And then, again, how do you get rid of 14 million people, estimated? This is where I go back to, well, it shouldn't be that hard to get rid of the bulk of them. Cut off the free stuff. Yeah, all of the free stuff that they're getting now that they're here, cut it off. And then deal with anyone who has intentionally hired an illegal immigrant. All right, you're not allowed to, so if you do, we're going to come down with fines and prison, whatever the case is. You're not allowed to hire illegals. Deal with it in that way, and I would think a good bulk of them leave immediately on their own. We see a push of people heading in the other direction. After that is when we have to go through and start finding people and arresting them.
Why is that person running? Are you okay? Is somebody chasing you? You're running on purpose? 7 a.m.
Yep, there you have it. A new level of crazy. And you heard it here first. Wake up, Wyoming. Glenn Woods is live on AM 1030 K2 Radio and the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
7:18 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. I'm just getting a response from Miss Mary. I just posted this on my social media account. Please ask for dolphin-free cranberries this Thanksgiving. And it shows, in case you don't know, what they do when they pick all the cranberries. They put them in this giant water-filled, imagine like a huge swimming pool bog thing is where they grow them. Okay? And so to harvest cranberries, you basically walk through this cranberry-filled bog to harvest them. So there's a guy who's harvesting cranberries in the bog, and there's a dolphin in there. It says, please ask for dolphin-free cranberries this Thanksgiving. Every year, at least 12,000 cranberry bog dolphins are scooped into nets and canned. Make this year different. Okay, so I was talking about getting rid of illegal immigrants and how the new incoming border czar which, unlike the last one, which was Harris will actually do something, has said that according to the law, if some sanctuary cities are determined to try to stop federal agents from doing their job and deporting people, well, then the Trump administration is going to go along and arrest people, including mayors. And I just played an audio clip from the mayor of Denver saying, oh, I'm okay with that. Well, make sure that the punishment is such that he's not okay with that, is what I have to say. So, Milo, morning Milo, he's over in Fort Danger. Well, the Democrats said they could confiscate 700 million guns. So finding 14 million illegal people should be no problem. Wolfie over there in Campion, put him, the mayor of Denver, put him in jail with the illegal criminals. See how that works out. Now, that's a great idea. As we're arresting illegals, especially gang members, especially the gang members, go ahead and take the mayor of Denver. Don't put him in some nice cell somewhere. Put him in with the gang members, the very people that he wants to keep in Denver. That, Wolfie, is a great idea. Paul and Casper, strip all federal funds from those non-compliant, the states will break. Chet and Yoder says, deport them too. Well, I understand, Chet, you can't really deport an American like that, but I do agree with the idea. Just go ahead and put them in the cell with some of the dangerous people that they don't want to deport, and let's see if they change their minds. I'm also in favor of the idea, and I think this is a good idea, cut off federal funds. Look, one of the ways that the federal government gets controls over the states, and you know this, is they keep feeding us all sorts of money. And we get addicted to that money. We really do. Then, if we don't do what the feds say, well, if you don't do such and such, we're going to cut off the money to your highways. We're going to cut off the money to your schools. Something like that. States are afraid of this because they've become so, especially states that don't have a lot of money coming in of their own, like a Wyoming, for example. But even some big populated states that have gotten so addicted to that federal money, oh, they're afraid to do anything where they don't comply with even the smallest little rule from the federal government, because they might cut off our money. Well, let's see if the Trump administration is willing to do that. I would, if I was in the Trump administration position. If you're going to keep hoarding illegal aliens, Denver, Colorado, you are no longer going to get federal money for the following. Oh, and by the way, that includes, now that I'm thinking about it, one of the problems that we had in North Carolina when that hurricane hit up in North Carolina and did a lot of damage, whole communities were wiped out. FEMA ran out of money because they were spending a lot of money on illegal immigrants. And a lot of that money included putting them up in hotels, providing them with food and all sorts of other things. This cost FEMA a lot of money, remember this? And FEMA did not have the money to take care of our own citizens in North Carolina. So how about this? Can the Trump administration, now that Trump gets to pick the director of FEMA, just cut off the money to cities like Denver and just say, look, part of the way, already Denver is in trouble financially trying to take care of these people. They're overwhelmed. They can't. Imagine what would happen if we cut off the federal money from organizations like FEMA. Now what does Denver do? Oh, you know what the outcry is going to be like. You know what, you understand the outcry, of course. But then there's the threat to, and we'll arrest your mayor and anybody else, because the mayor of Denver is saying, look, I'll ask the police to stop federal officials. Oh, wouldn't you like to see that confrontation? So there's a lot of work to do here. But I still go back to, I think the best way to handle the problem of illegal immigration is to cut off the free stuff. Now that I think about it, yeah, cut off the FEMA money and any other money coming from the federal government to take care of these folks. That means they're no longer being put up in hotels. Not with federal money anyway. Let the states figure that out. But they're no longer being put up in hotels, getting all sorts of free food and medical attention and so on.
But then also, some of these people are being handed money, much like welfare handouts. Cut off that. Then I go back to, and don't let anyone hire him. If you hire an illegal, the feds are going to come after you. Because you can't hire illegals. You can only hire either American citizens or people who are in this country legally on work permits. You can hire them too. Do that, and we cut off all sorts of reasons for people to be here illegally. They can't do it anymore. They can't. They have nothing. They came here and got a whole bunch of free stuff. Now they have nothing. I think a good chunk of that estimated 14 million will just head back south. We're not going to get them all that way, but we'll get a lot of them that way. Now, there's other groups who honestly don't care about the free stuff from the federal government, and that's your gangs, because they make money in a completely different way. Now, I wonder, and I do worry, we're going to have a gang problem. Like we already do in America have a gang problem, but we're going to continue to have a gang problem in this country now that we have Honduras gangs, Venezuela gangs, etc. And as you saw in some of the videos online, some of these people are well armed and a bit organized. Not like we can't handle them, but still. So I don't think that some of those gangs are going to go quietly. So we're going to have to deal with that. This is a big mess we've been left with, isn't it? I mean, what a damn mess left by the last administration. And what exactly did they think was going to happen with this? I want to know where they're going with this and why they refuse to see the problems that have been caused. Now, I do understand some people have said there are some really good people in other countries who are honestly fleeing a bad situation, and they weren't coming to America with any ill intent. They were coming to America for a better life, and these are good people. And I can actually sympathize with them. However, you don't cross the border illegally. There's a system we have set up for a reason. And so I do agree that there's a lot of really good people that came across the border doing what any American immigrant has ever done since America has become America, which is just search for a better life. And I have no problem with them coming to America. But again, we've set up a system for a reason, and those good people out there need to understand that we did set up a system for a reason. So how about we hit the reset button with these people? You want to go back and come back across the border legally this time? Because we need to vet you. And I have been asked by liberals, vet for what? Well, the same thing every country vets for. Make sure you're a person with good intentions, not bad. Can you support yourself? You have a job? You have money? Got a skill? How do you plan to support yourself so you're not a burden to society? Do you have any disease that we can't handle? Because we've seen what happens throughout history when some disease shows up on a continent that's not used to that disease. And well, you understand the problems that causes. So people are also vetted for diseases. Those are the three main reasons that anybody is vetted when they try to cross the border of any country, not just America. And those are very good reasons. So hopefully, I have a lot of hope for this, but we'll see. The Trump administration will handle this. It's not going to be easy, and you know that. I know that. It's not going to be easy when you think about how many people have flooded into this country to turn that back around. And in some cases, it's just going to get damn ugly, but it needs to be done. Morning, Rianne. Rianne is also in Fort Danger. Wait, remember when Denver complained that they were overrun and couldn't handle the illegals anymore? What the hell? I agree. So what happened? What's different now? I don't think anything is different. All right, coming up on some local news that we have to take care of, we're going to roll into a weather forecast after that. 7:45, I get Don Day on the line with me, and Don Day is going to give you a forecast not just for today, but a travel forecast all the way through Thanksgiving. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
Start your day the right way. Wake Up, Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
Time it's Wake Up, Wyoming. So, okay, let's head over to the Wyoming House and Senate, where things are shaping up for the next legislative session. And remember, the Wyoming Freedom Caucus took over. So here's the latest, and it's going around Wildfire County 17. The story here says Wyoming is poised to become the first state in the nation to see a Freedom Caucus take the State House reins after Republican lawmakers on Saturday selected 4 of its members of the, and it says hardline group, for House leadership. Several legislators told Wildfire. Saturday vote to the GOP caucus in Casper was not entirely a surprise, since all but one of these races were uncontested. The results, however, the story says, are significant. The National Freedom Caucus movement hopes to recreate its Wyoming success in other states. So between the primary and the general election, Freedom Caucus gained enough seats to win control of the lower chamber, securing leadership positions, which was the last piece to fall into place over the groups. And it always has to say hardline Republicans, who were once a small group. I don't look at them as hardline myself. Now, sometimes Freedom Caucus tactics I don't like, but much of what they want to accomplish I actually agree with. And I don't see as hard line. It's just not moderate Republicans. It's more conservative Republicans. But all right. Representative Chip Neiman, Republican Hewlett, was nominated for Speaker, while Republicans chose Representative Jeremy Harleton, Republican Wheatland, as Speaker pro temp, and Republican Scott Heiner, Republican of Green River, as Majority Floor Leader for Representative Ocean Andrew, Republican Laramie, as Majority Whip. So, meantime, Republicans in the Senate rejected a leadership slate that publicly pledged to deliver a conservative agenda, and this is, again, more conservative than it has been, opting for a mix of traditional and hardline lawmakers to lead the upper chamber. So the Senate is considered the upper chamber. The selection for some positions are only nominations at this point. Okay. Democrats included, the vote must affirm them, but with just 2 Democrats in the Senate and 6 in the House, Democrats are really not going to get anything. Senator Bo Beitman, Republican Ranchester, selected as the next Senate president, and Tim Salazar, Republican Riverton, as Senate vice president, and Senator Tara Nethercott, Republican Cheyenne, as floor majority leader. That's in the Senate. Leadership positions hold significant power in both chambers, the story says, particularly the Speaker of the House and the President in each chamber. Those are the leadership positions. They decide the makeup and chair of each committee, as well as what legislation goes to what committee, if it goes at all. And remember, our legislative sessions in Wyoming are short. We don't have full-time legislators. They show up for a very short period of time, and the clock is ticking on what kind of business they can get done. So every single year, piles of legislation shows up, and most of it never makes it. And we go between a budget year one year and a legislative year the next year. So during a budget year, sometimes if 2/3 of the House agree, we can get legislation offered. Other than that, it's a legislative session. So really what the setup is supposed to be is the state of Wyoming can only pass laws, supposedly, every other year for a very short window of time, like roughly a month. They do that so we don't have lawmakers constantly passing laws on us. It restricts government, which is a brilliant idea that I would like to bring to the federal government. Imagine on the federal level, if the House and Senate only met once a year for a short period of time to take care of the business of government, and that's it. So much of what they try to get done would just never happen because they don't have the time to let it happen. Okay, so The story says, it talks about Neiman ran unopposed for the speakership and made his plans to pursue the top position known early in the primary election. Quote, the state of Wyoming's, through the last election, obviously has got an agenda or a mind involved that they want to see things move in more of a conservative direction. Now, this is, once again, where every time the Freedom Caucus is mentioned in stories like this, they always have to say extreme. Yeah. And again, I don't see them, other than sometimes I disagree with some, or hard line is what they like to say with the Freedom Caucus. And again, sometimes I disagree with their tactics that I look at as a little more hard line, but I don't think that what they want to accomplish is necessarily extreme or hard-lined either. But we'll see as we roll into this next legislative session. All right, so Don Day's coming up. He's got your weather forecast, not just for today, which if you're driving in the northeastern part of Wyoming could be icy. But all the way through Thanksgiving, we'll talk about some travel plans. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Got something to say to Glenn? Use the chat on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app and get your opinions straight to the studio with K2 Radio.
Wake Up Wyoming, off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. Don, it was really slip and slide all the way to work today for me. Black ice everywhere.
Yeah, parts of central and east central Wyoming in particular, and other parts of the state kind of in patches. That little wave that came through yesterday producing just enough to make roads icy, and we still have a lot of slick spots, especially in the Casper area over to Lusk, up the Midwest and KC, and along the road to Shoshone. So take it easy out there. The system that caused it is off to our east. So we'll have a decent day today. So once the sun comes up, we should see those roads get a little bit better.
Okay, now, but that leads us into, we got today, but Tuesday, Wednesday is when people really start thinking about traveling.
Yeah, and we've got a system, another piece of that storm. The same storm that we've been talking about for a week is still off the Pacific coast. This has been sitting there. Now pieces of it are coming through. That's what we saw yesterday. Another bigger piece is going to come through tomorrow and Wednesday. Now, as it stands, Wyoming is going to get a glancing blow. We're not going to get a direct hit. The snow is going to be a lot more widespread and heavier in Utah and Colorado. That being said, we're expecting the western counties of the state and the Interstate 80 corridor tomorrow during the day, especially by late afternoon, tomorrow night into Wednesday morning. Those southern and western counties of the state will get kind of like yesterday in parts of central Wyoming, just enough to make roads and highways slick. And the air is going to get really chilly on the backside of the system tomorrow night and Wednesday, so that could make things very icy. If you're headed to Utah, Colorado, you're going to have more in the way of heavier snow there.
Okay, and this means, of course, and I was writing a little bit something about this morning, a little article, which I was noticing when people get up in the morning on Tuesday and Wednesday, that I think is probably the most dangerous time. A lot of black ice out there, but we have partly cloudy skies. Cold, I know, but still, that should help a little bit, right?
That'll help a little bit, but that low sun angle doesn't do a lot.
No,
the sun, the effectiveness of the sun, it just isn't very good this time of year.
Okay.
But we will, once we get by Wednesday, it does look like a couple of dry days Thursday for Thanksgiving and Friday. Just going to be cold.
Yeah, well, there's the temperature drops down considerably. I think, is Thursday the coldest there? Is it Friday, do you think?
They're both going to be about the same,
about
20s
same.
and 30s.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just kind of bundle up. And as I was telling people earlier this morning, you think it's bad here, go to Florida. It gets cold. You got iguanas falling on your head. So
we do not want that here.
No, we definitely don't. Don't want to scoop those up with a shovel. All right, thank you, Don. Don Day with Day Weather. So now you got the days that is possibly the best to travel. Let's head on over to the ice box where Frank Gambino is waiting by. Miss Mary has a dog in her office.
Is that why the door is closed?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, so what happened, and I'm doing this to try to help now. As you know, Mary, folks, she's up in the Casper area, and she has the street that she found this on. But you got to know her. She's like the dog whisperer.
Oh, this is a stray dog she found?
Well, it just kind of approached her as if it was asking for help.
And
so
dogs do that.
Yes, they do. And, of course, it was cold. It was hungry. Temperatures were in the teens this morning. So for those in the Casper area, she said she found the dog near 17th and Beverly. And it seemed pretty cold. Now, I went back there. I had some beef stew, which I donated to the dog.
Oh, excellent. There you go.
Who inhaled that stuff because we figured it must be hungry. Just the sweetest dog ever. Frank, if you go back there and give it a pet, that dog is just going to love on you. Sweetest dog ever.
I'm not taking the dog home.
No one's asking you to take the dog home.
I'm not taking it home. That's how they reel you in.
That's it. Well, that's how your cat reeled you in.
Yes.
I've
been down that road.
Yeah, okay. No one's asking you to take the dog home.
No.
But if you went back there, really just a very sweet dog. So, yeah, we're trying to find out who the owner is at this point. There wasn't a collar or anything like that. But it does not surprise me that when the dog saw a person, just walked up basically to say, help.
Yeah.
Because it was out all night in the cold.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, even with a nice fur coat like that, Frank, that gets cold out there.
You know, many, many years ago,
yeah,
on the Casper radio station, K2, we had the Doggone Report.
Oh, really?
Lost dogs. It was every Wednesday. And we would just read a list, about price, just go on for about 2 minutes.
Wow.
And this dog was here, and this dog, we found this one over here, and it's a lab, and it's a this and that, and everything else. The Doggone Report.
Oh, God. Here's what you got to do, folks. First off, if this thing has a chip in it, that's great.
Yep.
It's a good idea to have a chip. If not, first thing I asked, I know Mary would know to check this anyway, but look for a collar with some information on it.
There's got to be.
Yeah, but there's not a collar on this dog.
Oh.
See, there's the thing.
The dog left the collar at where he was
probably, kind of like when you forget your cell phone. The dog went out and, oh, gosh, darn it, I forgot my collar. So those kind of things are really helpful.
Okay.
Anyway.
In this day of the social media, put a picture of the dog on Facebook or everything else, and somebody will respond.
Well, I hope so, because we have it all over social media right now.
There you go. College football mode of the weekend. The Wyoming Cowboys turned in a respectable performance against 12th-rated Boise State and still lost in Laramie, 17-13 on Saturday night. Cowboy defense, especially with a makeshift defensive line, showed some fortitude. Even though Boise State running back Ashton Genty had 169 yards rushing, got 61 on one play, which was a touchdown run, and that TD really, really hurt. Cowboy offense got a first-half touchdown pass from Caden Anderson to Justin Stevenson, but Anderson left the game at halftime in concussion protocol. So the backup was in there, the original starter, Evan Swoboda, and his difficulties this year have been well documented. He went 6 of 13 for 87 yards. He was sacked twice and still struggles with touch. Amazing as it sounds, Boise State at 10-1 played their worst game of the year and won. Wyoming at 2-9 played their best game of the year and lost. Cowboys conclude the season on Saturday at Washington State. In the NFL, the Denver Broncos are 7-5 after beating a bad Las Vegas Raiders team 29-19 on the road yesterday afternoon. Bronco quarterback Bo Nix 25 of 42 for 273 yards and a couple of touchdown passes as Denver rallied from a 13-9 halftime deficit. Broncos making some strides here, and they're in the playoff picture with 7 wins. They'll take on Cleveland next Monday night. Wyoming Cowboy basketball team beat Southeastern Louisiana on Friday afternoon in Laramie 64-61 to get to 4-1 overall. Pokes had a tough time shooting the basketball at 37% and made just 5 3-pointers and 22 attempts. UW still struggles from the free throw line, going 57% from the charity stripe on that Friday game. They were led in scoring by Jordan Nesbitt with 13 points and 15 rebounds. How about that? Cowboys will be in the Cancun tournament starting tomorrow, taking on Tulane at 4 p.m. Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team improved to 2-3. They drilled Colorado Christian on Friday morning in Laramie, 80-54. Allison Furdy, the Douglas High School grad, with 22 points on 10 of 12 from the field, also with a dozen rebounds, so she was great. Cowgirls will be in the tournament in Puerto Rico this week. They'll take on Drake on Thursday, Norfolk State on Friday, and Virginia on Saturday. And that's it in sports.
Okay, so the next game, our UW boys are going, where'd you say?
Pullman, Washington.
Pullman, Washington. Okay.
Going to the Palouse.
Yeah, okay. So then the game over there, they're obviously going to lose this one, you said.
I don't think they're going to win.
They're not going to win. Are they that good? I mean,
Washington State's not bad.
Not bad at all. Okay.
Yeah.
But, you said the team they just played, though,
was rated 12th in the country.
Yes, but did not have a good day.
No, and they still won.
Okay.
And that is the mark of a good team. Yes. When you don't play well and still win.
Well,
then you know you're good.
I used to say back when Tiger Woods was at the top, when Tiger Woods would have a bad day, that meant he was as good as any other pro golfer.
Right, yeah. He kind of came down to the rest of the pack.
Yes, that's right. When he was having a good day, you might as well not even show up.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business, we got to take everyone roll into news time after that. Oh, and then one more. I got to pick on Colorado one more time. Story from Colorado: no more free-range pooping for human beings. Whatever you're thinking, it's not what you're thinking. But it kind of is. I'll explain next hour. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Clean day.
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Monday, but it's kind of like a fake Monday because no one really works as we get this close to a holiday.
Today's show is sponsored by frog-flavored ice cream. Tastes like chicken, but it's frog.
Oh, I'll let you guys try it and let me know all about it. Okay, we are getting to an important deadline, which happens to be today, as a matter of fact, for Reach Across America. Oh, Miss Mary, she's gone again. Oh, my God. We're trying to get Katie Morgan on the phone here, and this is the second time I've locked her down. Tell you what, Mary, can you give me her number, and I'll see if I can call it on this end, because it keeps disappearing. We get this person locked in to talk to us, and then suddenly the phone lets them go. And Mary sent me a note saying, I hate our phones, and I wrote, they hate you back. So, yeah, I think that's what's going on right now. All right. So, we are entering, by the way, here we go. Hang on. Thank you, Mary. I'm going to let you guys in on. Let me see if we can just do this. There we go. There's that weird tone that I don't like in the background. Okay. Don't memorize those beeps. That was not for public broadcast. I don't want you memorizing the beeps out there. Okay. There is a weird tone in the background, though, that I don't like. No, and then there's feedback here, too. And it's gone. Okay, there might be a problem, Mary, because what I heard was feedback, and then it hung up on me. Interesting. So let's go ahead. I do know what she's going to talk about, so I'll try to help in this way. Reese Across America is when we gather wreaths for graves all across America for those who served, to make sure that they are remembered. And the deadline for making sure we have enough wreaths for, well, all across America, but even all across Wyoming is today. So if you go ahead and type in Wreaths Across America, and you can make a donation. And it's in January that they lay the wreaths out. But they're collecting now. So if you would like to donate, go to Wreaths Across America. And what happens is they get these beautiful wreaths that go to graveyards all over America and all over Wyoming for anyone who has served, and they are laid there, and we remember them. So if you'd like to be a part of that, please go to Wreaths Across America. Today's the deadline to collect money to make sure that wreaths are laid. And you can go ahead and specify them for your area. If you know of a graveyard where there are graves of people who've served in any capacity, you can go ahead and donate specifically for your area. Now, the call that we were trying to get was from Laramie, Wyoming, but it doesn't just have to be Laramie. I mean, it can be anywhere around where you are, Wreaths Across America, and we'll make sure people can donate. Now, we'll see if we can get the phones going with everybody else, because it is the open phone segment of the program.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones.
We hope.
This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything.
We hope.
I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in, and let's do this thing.
And Miss Mary is restarting the phone system right now. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS, which I think is a good idea, Mary, because when I tried to dial out, I heard a horrible tone in my ear, and then it dropped out on me. after I had dialed. So we'll see if her restarting the phone system works. I am going with what she did, that the phone system hates her. If you want to give it a try, it would be good, even just to call Mary in a few minutes when she's got it up and running again, to make sure we have this running, because it's a big part of the program. You can still, however, message me using the Wake Up Wyoming app. Just hit the chat option. Send me a text message. All right. I don't know. I'm going after Colorado again in this. Colorado, you're a bunch of poopy pants. I'm saying this for a reason. I don't know why you guys in some of your more liberal states and cities have a problem with human waste. Like I've talked about San Francisco and all the human waste all over the streets, right? Same thing for Chicago, New York, places like that. All right, here's the story from Cowboy State Daily. People taking dumps, all over the mountains in Colorado, not just in the cities on the sidewalk, but in the mountains of Colorado, has become such a problem that plastic bags for packing out your own have been dispensed at some trailheads. So, see, it's one thing when you get to a trailhead and they have a plastic bag there. So let's say you have a dog with you, and your dog decides to go ahead. Well, nature calls, and you can go ahead and pick it up in the bag and pack it out. Okay. And you might think, but we're in the woods. Yes, but you're also on a trail, and not all of these trails are in the deep woods. So recently, a trailhead at the state's tallest peak, Mount Elbert, near Leadville, Colorado, volunteers handed out human do bags called wag bags. Now, why would you call it a wag bag if it's for a human? For the dog, I get it. But anyway, those are basically supersized versions of the plastic doggy poo bag that pet owners might find in dispensing stations along the parks. There's also a receptacle for dog poo bags at a similar trailhead leading to the summit. Now, this, I think, will help, if anything, stop the confusion that dogs have had. Because if a dog decides to do his business on the trail and you reach down and pick it up in a bag and carry it out, the dog wonders, what? I left that there for a reason. But then the human goes ahead and does it, and the human leaves it there. The dogs are very confused at this point. So the fact that the human has to pick up their own and pack it out, too, will help the dogs with their confusion in this. All right. And the lower 48's next highest peak is 14,421. Mount Massive, right along the same area. Colorado's biggest attraction for ambitious hikers and mountaineers. As is the case with most of the West's increasingly crowded outdoors, many of those hikers are dropping deuces, the story says, alongside the trails, but not properly cleaning up after themselves. So, no, just they step behind a bush and they just leave it there, and you can smell it when you're walking up the trail. There's overexposed human debris, wads of toilet paper dotting the landscape in Oregon and Colorado, which is prompted. Now here, they have to throw in this word. They always have to throw in this word. They call it sustainable pooping. Sustainable has to be in everything these days in order to make it acceptable. Sustainable pooping movement among outdoor enthusiasts. So while just going on the ground and walking away is considered a cardinal sin, digging a hole and going in it and then burying it isn't good enough for these sustainable poopers either. See, I always thought it was. Whenever I went on an extremely long hike way out somewhere, I'm not talking about, I'm going to be out for a half hour. No. A really long hike. I am prepared. I'm not trying to get too personal here, and yes, I've dug the hole and buried it. And nobody would know. But for the sustainable pooper movement, apparently that's not good enough. People should do their business in the bag and pack it out with them, according to sustainable pooping orthodoxy. Hang on, I'm going to go ahead and copy sustainable pooping, and I'm going to look it up. It's argued that human feces contains so much E. coli and other nasty bacteria that leaving it anywhere outdoors is just too risky. I'm not buying that. Rod Miller, who grew up as a fourth-generation rancher north of Rawlins, said he can't imagine such restrictive pooping protocols going over well in the cowboy state. We're kind of rugged out here. Out on the open range, answering nature's call was not a problem. He grew up on a ranch as a boy, way out in the middle of nowhere. When you gotta, you just do. It's not a problem. He says, in none of those cases was anybody telling me that I couldn't take a outdoor or telling me where I needed to do it. Okay. So, for now, at least, the situation is better in Wyoming, the story says. U.S. Forest Service in Wyoming has no plans to set up pooping bags at trailheads anywhere in Wyoming. But you people in Colorado, boy, Rod Miller said, people being able to poop without concern it's for delicate sensibilities. Otherwise, okay. This story goes on from here. But you get what I'm going to look up here is before I let you go on the story. Sustainable pooping. Okay. Yep, it does come up. There's the Cowboy State story, and then some others. Green line pooping bags. Here's a story. Can poop power the planet? Oh, wow. Pack it outdoors. Yeah, recycling our own poop to grow food more sustainably. Oh, there's all sorts of stories. I bet you would wish that I would just change the subject, right? Yeah, well, I'm going to. Honestly.
You either buckle down and do your work or you'll end up at McDonald's.
We going to McDonald's if I don't do my work?
No.
Hard work, hard work. That's what they say. Hard work.
If it matters in Wyoming, it matters to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Call Glenn at 888-97-WOODS and make your voice heard. AM 1030, K2 Radio.
8:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, I was going to go on to some other topic, but people are dragging me back into it. If you just tuned in, there is in Colorado a sustainable poop movement, and that's because there's people who go walking these beautiful trails, and when nature calls, they just go off to the side of the trail and leave a big mess there. And so of course, they have to throw in sustainable with everything. The sustainable poop movement are putting bags for humans right next to the doggy bags so you can pack it out. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm on a trail way out in the middle of nowhere and my dog's got to go, I'll just walk the dog out into the woods a little bit, and that's fine because that's where all the other animals are going. If I have to go, I'm going to walk further into the woods, but I dig a hole and bury it. Now, Chet Yoder says, I've had sustainable poop many times in my life. RH, who's in Wiggins, Colorado, Glenn, send all of those poop-filled bags to the mayor of Denver. Why not? Or just to the sustainable poop movement in general, and that is what they call themselves. Brendan is in Greeley. Please don't rub it in, Glenn. Us conservatives already don't like it here, and I get it. But, I mean, really, how far can you take this kind of garbage? There was a while ago, someone in New York, and I'm trying to remember which New York newspaper it was, wrote an article, and they specifically named Wyoming and talked about how they felt sorry for people out here because, you're tiny little towns out in the middle of nowhere, and you have no culture out here, and your education choices are so limited, and it must be horrible. And so I wrote an article back, which I compared Glen Rock, Wyoming, to New York City, where this author was from, and pointed out that the only poop on the streets and sidewalks in Glen Rock were when pronghorn walked through town. Other than that, there wasn't any. But there's human debris all over the place in New York City. In New York City, you probably don't want to go. It's bad enough you don't want to go for a walk at night, but you don't want to go for a walk during the day either. It's dangerous. But in a town like Glen Rock, Wyoming, any time of the day or night, go for a walk. You're good. Nothing bad out there is going to happen to you. I also compared the cost of living compared to the two. It's much more affordable to live in a place like Glen Rock, and they have nice homes there. So there's a great place to raise your kids, and they'll get a good education. And they can go on to do great things in this cute little town. But mainly what I wanted to focus on was when I say human debris, I mean this in two different types. Human debris as in there are human beings that lives have descended to such a low point they become debris. And then there's the human debris, which is human waste that you'll find on the streets. Because in major cities, they've passed ordinances where if somebody's got to go, they got to go. And they just let them. But now it's to the point, sorry, Brendan, but if you go for a hike in the woods in Colorado, well, apparently that's become a problem too, especially when it comes to human debris. So, yeah, places like this have fallen apart. They really have. And I'm going to bring it back to something a little more serious. Because while I certainly do have a problem with those in charge in places like Denver, Colorado, and some other major cities and states out there, I also bring it to how people were raised. Because if you were raised properly, this would never be a problem. Like I said, when I've gone for a very long walk in the woods, and I mean, I know I'm going to be out there almost all day, if not longer, that I am prepared for what happens if nature calls. I know what to do. Because I was raised properly to be considerate of other people and not just leave garbage all over the place. And I think about that when I go to I've lived in major cities, and one of the things I never did like was how inconsiderate some people are. Well, in fact, I can say the same thing. I hate it when I go to certain parks here in Wyoming and there's broken glass and beer bottles all over the place. I hate seeing that kind of stuff too. And I really do think that's how people are raised. Handing out a bunch of plastic bags that are bigger than the doggy bags and telling people when nature calls, pack it out, I really don't think is going to happen. And that's not the solution to the problem anyway. The solution to the problem is getting people from a very young age so they will be considerate, not just of themselves and other people, but considerate of their community, too. And also maybe just a little bit of self-respect and self-esteem that comes along with that. I would never do such a gross thing because I would feel bad about myself if I did something really despicable, like just leave trash or my own human waste all over the place for others to come across. I would feel really bad about that. I couldn't live with myself if I did such a thing. That's how I was raised. And I know some of you listening out there, that's how you were raised. And I would like to get back to that, but I think it really all comes down to not that your government is passing laws or we have some kind of sustainable poop group out there that's trying to hand out plastic bags. I really think it comes back to how we were raised. And we can start working on the next generation anytime now. Coming up on some local news that we have to take care of, we're going to roll into a weather forecast after that. Nice long segment of open phones if Mary's got them up and running again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject, fine by me. Wake Up Wyoming.
News and weather together at the top and bottom of every hour. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
8:36 the time. For the record, you people are dragging me back here with your sarcastic comments. I was going to say something else, but I can't use that word on the air. But it goes along with poop. Okay, your poopy comments. How about that? I can say that. All right, so if you're just joining me, I'm still on the topic. Colorado, there's a group out there that are, they call themselves sustainable poopers. They want sustainable pooping. And the idea, if you're walking the trails out there and nature calls, they want you to pack it out just like you're supposed to do with your dog's poop. All right, I know. And yet you can still go to Denver and just go ahead and relieve yourself on the streets there. Don't worry about it. I've got some of the best comments on this ever. And these are people who are texting me on the Wake Up Wyoming app. And we'll see how this works. Hang on. I think Miss Mary's... Nope, not working, Miss Mary. I can hear the busy signal there? Yeah, we're working on the phone thing. So that's all I get is a weird-sounding busy signal. All right, Chris in Cheyenne. Brilliant point, Chris. Instead of bags, environmentalists will cry about the biodegradable paper trail at the head. Now, this is where I have to wonder, paper or plastic? If you're going to have a bag, and they say that the bag for human beings is bigger than the doggy bag for the doggy poop. Then this is where we get into the whole debate over paper or plastic. So, anyway, he says, 4 sheets to do along with some leaves, they'll be fine. Chet and Yoder, where do they get the money for the bags? General fund or Biden? Good question for that. Donations of some kind? Now, Tumbleweed here in KC has a story for us. I'm just going to warn you in advance. Tumbleweed has a story for us. I shouldn't have to say any more. When I worked in Yosemite, he says, a visitor called 911 and reported a suspicious device in the picnic area. 6-inch long piece of 4-inch ABS pipe with a cap at each end. Rangers thought it was a bomb called the bomb squad. They came up and blew it up in place. Turned out it was a homemade device for packing poop out. The poop flew, much to the embarrassment of all involved. Okay, let's see. Who else do I have here? Let's see, money for the bags. There's, Gasper Farms in Pine Bluffs. Free plastic poop bags in Colorado recreational areas in Colorado. Who has a less waste-intensive and charges 10 cents in stores for plastic bags? See, this is where I get... Let me see. Okay. I'm looking at plastic. Okay. Bags, Colorado. Okay. So plastic grocery bags, carry out. Colorado's plastic bag ban is in full effect. Okay. So here's the deal. I don't know what they're going to do here. Colorado's statewide plastic bag ban, the story says, takes effect this year. But city and municipal governments are still divided on how to enforce it. The language of the law passed in 2021, but it's up till 2024 is when it takes effect this year. It started January 1st of this year. Ranges from large businesses to operate in Colorado to stop providing single-use plastic carryout bags by January 1st, 2024. So that was the beginning of this year. Inventory purchased before 2024 can still be provided to customers for a little while until they run out of that inventory. After that, it's recycled paper carryout bags at a 10-cent fee. Cities and counties are essentially responsible for enforcing the law, and local governments were given a entry of 2023 to prepare for the ban. So you have a year to get ready for this. Businesses allowed to continue to offer plastic bags if they charge 10 cents a bag. Local governments entitled to 60% of the fees collected. So if they charge 10 cents a bag, 60% of that goes to local governments. Because state lawmakers lay the responsibility of enforcing the plastic bag ban at the feet of local governments, the language of the law doesn't outline how government should implement it. Denver introduced its own plastic bag ban in 2021, giving it a head start on preparing for a statewide ban. The 10-cent bag fee, is prior to the bag. I still go back to the poop bag, which is a plastic bag. What are we supposed to do there? We have a robust infrastructure in place at the Office of Climate Action and Sustainability and Resiliency. That is a Colorado office. Let me read that again. Quote, we have a robust infrastructure in place at the Office of Climate Action and Sustainability and Resiliency and have been enforcing the administration of disposable bag fees, according to the man who manages the city's zero waste and circular economy program. There is no such thing as zero waste, by the way. That doesn't happen. While Denver has had 10 cents since 2021 for plastic bags, businesses in the city limits weren't required to get rid of plastic bags entirely until the statewide ban took effect. I don't see how they enforce this, but all right. Denver has collected about $5 million in remittance fees since the introduction of the bag ban in 2021. Grand Junction collected about $174,000 last year. Pueblo says it doesn't plan to collect the fees until 2024. This brings us back to, so here are these people handing out free plastic poop bags for your dog and for you. So this brings us back to the whole paper versus plastic thing. Chris in Cheyenne said instead of bags, environmentalists should cry about about having biodegradable paper at the trailhead. 4 sheets should do, he said. And along with some leaves, they'll be fine. So keep that in mind. This goes back to where I was saying, why don't you just make sure if you're out in the woods that long that you're ready to dig a hole. And this is where, well, you can't do that because, and then they have a problem with that. No, we can't dig a hole. Well, because human waste is filled with so much E. coli and stuff. Then here's what I want to know. When they're done using if anybody does, the human bag for the human waste, where does it go after that? Okay, I want to know. And you take it where? I suppose they have an answer for that. But I want to know. And you take it where? This goes back to how people in Colorado raise their kids, which was what I was talking about earlier.
Sending your kids out to play.
Now hold still.
Mommy, I can't breathe.
Well, playtime's not what it used to be. Not since the nanny state's taken over.
I'm not going to tape over your mouth. You need to breathe.
How am I supposed to go out and play in my cave and move?
Well, with all the dangers that are out there in the world, like Nerf, soccer balls, hugs, and who knows, your kid might come across a 5-year-old selling lemonade on their front lawn after school.
Now, this is for your own safety. Put your helmet on.
It's hot, all this stuff.
Don't take any chances in today's dangerous world. Make sure to bubble wrap your kids before they step out the front door.
This isn't fun anymore. I don't want to go out and play if it isn't fun anymore.
Don't forget knee pads, shoulder pads, elbow pads, and helmets. Earplugs in case you hear any offensive words. 911 on speed dial on their cell phone. The number of a counselor, just in case they see, hear, feel, smell anything that might be considered remotely offensive. Condoms. In fact, better idea. Just keep them inside. It's far too dangerous out there in the real world.
Mommy, this sucks.
Live and local, all across Wyoming. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97-WOODS or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
Talk to Frank Gambino, who's there in the icebox. Okay, Frank, you're going to have to tell me whether this is lazy or genius.
Okay, I'm ready. And it's probably both.
It probably is, yeah. So you saw, of course, there's some people had some wonderful decorations for Halloween.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And there were even not just the skeletons out there and so on, the big skeletons.
I like the 9-footer, the 10-footers,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Then it comes time for Christmas, and people go out and decorate the skeletons. They put a stocking cap on it, they wrap it in Christmas lights, and call it good. So they didn't have to clean up from one holiday to decorate for the next holiday. They just repurposed it as is.
I have heard of that. And I think it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, see, that's why on one hand I'm thinking you're being a little bit lazy, but that's pretty smart.
Yeah, because you don't want to go out there twice.
No, and all you got to do is go around the skeleton and just throw some. In fact, there was one skeleton in our area where the skeleton was standing up by the roof. I mean, big skeleton, well, those big ones. And standing up by the roof, and it was messing with Halloween decorations. Now, swap the Halloween decorations. It looks like the skeleton is hanging Christmas lights.
See, that's genius.
Yeah, that is. I thought that was too.
Real men of genius.
Yes. Okay, so the genius people out there that are repurposing, I just want to know, what are you going to do for Easter?
You know what? There's nothing for Easter.
There's really nothing.
Well, you can put eggs in the front lawn with these giant attack rabbits. You know, and
that's okay. Yeah. All right, might as well do. Yeah, I don't know of many people who decorate for Easter anyway. They decorate their kids for Easter.
Yeah,
but they don't really decorate the house for Easter.
Just attack rabbits in the front, and
it's okay. But at some point, you got to bring all of that stuff in, folks. Just saying. Unless you're Frank, and then you just leave it up all year round. Not a problem.
Well, yeah. All right, to the National Football League, the Denver Broncos are 7-5 after beating a bad Las Vegas Raiders team yesterday on the road, 29-19. So, Bronco quarterback Bo Nix, he's been having a pretty good season, 25 of 42 for 273 yards and a couple of touchdown passes as Denver rallied from a 13-9 halftime deficit. And the Broncos are making some strides, and they are in the playoff picture with 7 wins. They'll take on Cleveland next Monday night. College football from over the weekend, the Wyoming Cowboys did turn in a respectable performance against 12th-rated Boise State and Laramie. And the folks still lost 17-13. The Cowboy defense, especially that makeshift defensive line, really showed some fortitude. And even though Boise State running back Ashton Genty, who was a Heisman Trophy candidate, had 169 yards rushing, got 61 on one play, which was a touchdown run, and that TD really hurt. Cowboy offense got a first-half TD pass from Caden Anderson to Justin Stevenson, but Anderson left the game at halftime in concussion protocol, so the backup was in there, who was the original starter, Evan Swoboda, and his difficulties this year have been well documented. He was 6 of 13 for 87 yards, sacked twice, and still struggling with touch. Amazing as it sounds, Boise State at 10-1 played their worst game of the year and won. Wyoming at 2-9 played their best game of the year and lost. The Cowboys will actually be on the road to conclude the season on Saturday in Pullman at Washington State. Wyoming Cowboy basketball team a winner over Southeastern Louisiana on Friday afternoon in Laramie, 64-61. So they're 4-1 overall. Cowboys had a tough time shooting the basketball at just 37% and made just 5 3-pointers in 22 attempts. UW still struggles from the free throw line, going 57% from the charity stripe in that game. They were led in scoring by Jordan Nesbitt with 13 points and 15 rebounds. Cowboys will be in the Cancun tournament starting tomorrow, taking on Tulane at 4 p.m. And the Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team, 2-3 on the year. They drilled Colorado Christian on Friday morning in Laramie, 80-54. Allison Furtick, the Douglas High School graduate, with 22 points on 10 of 12 from the field and had a dozen rebounds, so she was great. Cowgirls will be in a tournament in Puerto Rico this week. They'll play Drake on Thursday, Norfolk State on Friday, and Virginia on Saturday. And that's in sports.
And I bet a lot of these people, they go to Puerto Rico, they're going to see something really weird. There's water out there.
Yeah.
Lots of it.
Yeah. All over the place, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's warm.
Yes, and they're just not used to that because they grew up in Wyoming, where there's grass all over the place, no matter where you look. In fact, I was telling someone a while ago, living in a town in Wyoming is much like living on the island I grew up on. The difference, though, is instead of water being around my town, it's grass.
There's no similarities between Sanibel and Rock Springs.
But
No.
Either way, I can't go too far out into the Gulf of Mexico, and I can't go walking too far out into the grasslands.
Right. You're kind of confined. That's about it. But in terms of everything else...
Well, I might get attacked by a shark if I go too far out into the water in the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, you know they're out there. Yes, stay out of the water.
But I don't want to walk too far out in the grasslands because there's other creatures thattle attack me out there.
Well, then stay away from there. You know what's out there.
I stay on dry land, which is in town.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. So you see there are similarities.
I get it.
No, okay, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National, local update on your weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 7:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Monday, but it's a fake Monday. I say fake Monday because we've got a holiday coming up, which happens on Thursday, which means most people, including your boss, are not really giving their all today. And the closer we get to Wednesday, the less they'll give.
Today's show is sponsored by frog-flavored ice cream. Tastes like chicken, but it's frog.
So you go ahead and try that, and then get back with me on how that tastes.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call the show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Okay, first off, as I'm talking to you right now, on the ridiculously large television next to me here, Joe Biden is speaking on the White House lawn. He's supposed to be pardoning 2 turkeys. The first one, I assumed, would be Hunter. Then what other turkey should he pardon besides that? But anyway, he's got 2 birds there. But I turned on the audio real quick, and right away he starts talking about Biden, about, well, we've invested in rural America. Yeah, all right, Joe. And it all failed, so forget it. But now, here he is. They're bringing the turkeys up, and he's pardoning the turkeys. And I don't see Hunter anywhere around. If there was ever a turkey anywhere that he would want to pardon, it would be that one, right? All right. I just had to turn the volume off. I really couldn't listen anymore. All right, let's take a look at some climate justice news.
So put on your respirator and let's fix that generator. And while we're out, we'll mend our fences too. See, I'm not afraid of dying, just got reasons for surviving. I want one more day in the apocalypse with you.
Yeah, because we're supposed to be in a climate apocalypse right now, so let's go take a look at some of the stories that I have lined up for you today on the climate apocalypse. And by the way, there's absolutely too much for me to get through in just one day. And it's a short work week, so I'll get through what I can here. One of them, John Stossel, one of my all-time favorite broadcast heroes, puts up a video now and then on YouTube, and then he writes companion stories to go with it. This one is about destructive environmentalists, and he wants to know, how is it that our Natural Resource Council, the BLM, and a whole bunch of other environmental groups out there, and the EPA, they want us using cell phones. They want us using electric cars. They want us using wind and solar power. But they also don't want us digging for rare earth minerals. How is that? Because if they want wind and solar and electric cars, et cetera, they're going to need rare earth minerals. But every time someone tries to go digging for them, the environmentalists try to put it to a stop. And they can in many cases, because environmental groups, Stossel, and I've pointed this out many times over the years too, but John Stossel points out that many people who are in the EPA and the BLM and other government agencies are also the same people who've worked for these so-called environmental groups. They're the same people. So we end up with rare earth minerals, as one example, coming from places like Africa, where they literally have child slave labor, and also slave labor in China. And in both places, the way they go for these rare earth minerals is really disgusting, destructive, and toxic. And I have talked to some people who believe themselves to be climate activists about this problem, and they go into denial about it, even though it's what's happening. All right, next. So as the U.S. electricity supply comes up short, power-hungry industries are looking to go off-grid, and we see that here even in the state of Wyoming. Story says earlier this month, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission rejected an agreement between a nuclear power plant owner and Amazon to locate a data center next to the nuclear plant to satisfy its power needs. The decision, the story says, raises the prospect that energy-hungry data centers, which several will be built in Wyoming, as well as other industrial power consumers, may not be able to meet their high-powered demands with what's on the grid, especially as we've gone to more wind and solar, which makes that grid unreliable. If the grid can't supply the power, companies might be forced to create their own power plants. Those plants will likely be natural gas or even nuclear. Reliable. Well, there have been some energy. There is one company here that wants to build sort of an AI thing here in Wyoming, artificial intelligence in Wyoming. And their initial idea was to go or to go all big solar panels, but they're not going to get the reliable energy out of it that they need. They have to look for something else. So in March, Talon Energy, a majority owner of the Saskatchewan Steam Electric Station in Pennsylvania, told a data center campus to Amazon Web Service, the world's largest cloud service provider, for $650 million, according to the utility Dive, its magazine. Talon intends to sell power to Amazon for a 2.2 gigawatt stake in the Saskatchewan power plant. So they're trying to find ways to get around. There's also regulatory burnouts and blackouts is one of the subtitles here. A new study by the Jack Kemp Foundation in D.C.-based think tank estimates that without intervening from policymakers, the energy demands of data centers, electrification, and advanced manufacturing could increase the average American household electricity bill by 20% to 70% over the next decade. So as these computer companies get more and more hungry for energy, your electric bill goes up. How should that? If regulators make it harder for these operations to tap the grid for their energy needs, they may be forced to increase the numbers to build their own power plants. And that's exactly what Tesla CEO Elon Musk did in Memphis, Tennessee. Musk built a supercomputer using 100,000, it talks about processing units, for more than, basically he built a power plant next to the place where he built the IT center, to put it to you that way. Now he has his own energy, and he doesn't have to worry about tapping into the grid or government regulations. He's making his own money. All right. Now, we have a lot on this, but I'll do one more for you. So, in case you missed it, there was COP29. Now, COP29 is when every single year for 29 years now is when the United Nations gets together with nations around the world to meet to discuss climate change and to take action. Several countries are dropping out. Argentina, United States, a few other countries are dropping out of this. But get a load of this. At the last minute, because there was a lot of disagreement, at the last minute, they finally decided to agree on something. The COP29 conference in Azerbaijan ended last Saturday after 2 weeks of bitter division, the story said, with a pledge from countries to help out, pledging to provide some $300 billion a year annually to help poorer countries get on track with what they think is clean energy. COP stands for Conference of the Parties, which are nearly 200 countries that have ratified, and yet most of those, they've ratified a treaty through the United Nations, and yet most of those countries never comply with what they've ratified. Finally, at 2:40 p.m. local time Saturday, more than 30 hours past the deadline to reach an agreement, a gavel finally came down and they came to some kind of an agreement. Quote, people doubted that they could deliver, and I don't think that they will, because they've come to, once again, the 29th meeting, have come to some kind of an agreement. They want to global climate change spending to climb from $3 trillion a year to $5 trillion by 2050. Most attendees of the conference presumably realize that when President-elect Trump takes office, he's just going to get us out of that altogether. So once again, after all of this time, they finally came to some kind of an agreement. Once again, it's something that's completely unrealistic, 100% unrealistic. But by God, they made it look good, didn't they?
In Washington today, the U.S. Supreme Court handed down a landmark decision. The court reaffirmed the legality of the death penalty on the grounds that it is, quote, totally badass.
Legal experts are already talking about how this clearly marks the trend towards the Roberts Court being less strictly constitutional and more strictly awesome.
The only show broadcasting from a bunker under Devil's Tower. Hey, it's cold down here. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, 6 a.m. weekdays on AM 1030 and FM 95.1.
No, I'm not doing a commercial. I'm just asking you. So let's talk national news for just a bit, because there's some of these big national news organizations that are having trouble, not just broadcast, though. I mean, some of the major print organizations are in big trouble, too, as people have lost over the years massive confidence in the recent election with the garbage that reporters were saying and commentators, and also the polls, which were just garbage. So a lot of people have lost a lot of confidence. But let's pick on MSNBC for just a little bit to see how that works. Well, hang on now. Hopefully, Miss Mary, this works. Mark Armstrong is on the phone. Nope.
Hey, Glenn,
there you
how
go.
are you?
Can you hear me okay? Because I got a lot of noise on my end.
I got a lot of noise here, but I can hear you.
Okay,
So.
give it a try. Just let's not keep it on too long.
Okay, let's talk about Matt Gaetz and his attack on the FBI
Right.
to lead them to do an investigation on him. Doesn't that sound a little suspicious to you?
Yeah. But he's made a lot of enemies.
Okay.
It's just a lot of noise. I'm just going to let you go, and I'll comment on that. Sorry about the phones today, folks. They are giving us a little bit of a problem. I don't doubt that there's some people that want to go after Matt Gaetz, because Matt Gaetz has gone after a lot of people in Washington, D.C. But I think the big problem, the big mistake that Matt Gaetz made is, so he was nominated for a position in Trump's cabinet. So he immediately resigned his position. And I believe he was in the House, right? Immediately resigns. But then, because of a big blow-up of past scandals and so on, he drops out and says to Trump, okay, I'm not going to go for your cabinet position. The problem is he already resigned his seat. And his local district has said, sorry, we've already started the process of finding someone to replace you. So I think he's made a big mistake there tactically, and now he's just out of politics altogether, unless he wants to try to run for something else at some point. So he's made a lot of mistakes there. Speaking of mistakes, we can get back to, Don and Douglas. For all those Yellowstone fans, last night's episode was once again put in the spotlight on Wyoming. This time, decisions that got Jackson Hole and cost of property to places that locals cannot afford, and how, I haven't watched this, Montana shouldn't do it. I haven't watched Yellowstone. Okay. Let's see. Understand it is a TV show, but at least writers do their diligence on topics impacting the West. Unfortunately, they'll have to look far from the fictional Yellowstone Ranch to see this. I haven't seen that yet, any episode of Yellowstone, mainly because it seemed to me like one of those late-night soap operas, so I wasn't that interested in it. But it is interesting, since you're talking about people of wealth in the TV show Yellowstone, that they would take a look at what's going on in Jackson Hole. That doesn't surprise me at all. I still think they should have put Yellowstone in Wyoming, not Montana. It just, to me, made a whole lot more sense. But okay. I was picking on MSNBC. MSNBC came around because first we had CNN, and NBC News realized that they had just a half hour of news a night on television, on regular broadcast television. So NBC decided to start up MSNBC, which, because they have reporters all over the country, all over the world, now they can dump that news content in a 24-hour news cycle. Fine. Then Fox News came around, and Fox News decided to do that, but also put on some opinion hosts because there was no outlet for all news was left-wing. There was no outlet for right-wing news, that right-wing point of view. So they put on a lot of opinion shows and blew everybody out of the water in the ratings. So MSNBC decided to try to do this. Unfortunately, over the years, they continue to hire hosts that are more and more hateful, more and more left-wing extremists, more and more hateful. And they really blew it in this last election. MSNBC has slashed Rachel Maddow's salary by $5 million. She was getting $30 million a year. So she's still getting $25 million a year. Other people are worried about their jobs. And I think what was the funny part is during the course of the weekend, somebody mentions to Elon Musk that MSNBC is probably up for sale. And Elon Musk answered, "Really? How much?" Now, that's got people at MSNBC really nervous. I don't know if Musk is serious about that. We're too early into this. However, for Joe Rogan fans, he's asking if Elon Musk does buy MSNBC, can he have Rachel Maddow's job? Which would really drive some people absolutely insane. So we sit and wait now. Was Elon Musk serious about buying MSNBC? No clue. And if he did, what would he plan to do with it? Joe Rogan, and Musk and Rogan are friends. Joe Rogan would really love to have that job. And I know a lot of you would like to see him on broadcast television, too. It would certainly improve the ratings of a pretty much dead network. All right, coming up on some local news we got to take care of. We're going to roll into that and then a weather forecast, and you and I get back into it. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
And we're back. Sorry, we were busy tricking pescatarians into eating Rocky Mountain oysters. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Excuse me, I would have been back a moment or two sooner, but I sneezed. So I've been blowing my nose and all of that kind of stuff. Real quick, I just wanted to get this out there one more time while I'm on the air today. So, and I mean this exactly the way the story sounds. Miss Mary's heading to work this morning, and as she is heading toward her car, this really lovable dog walks up. And people are posting it's a wire hair. I don't know type, so I had no idea. And basically the dog was asking for help. I guess you had to see the way the dog approached her. And it was cold out. It was in the teens last night and snowy. So the dog is asking for help. So she brought the dog to work. I had something I could feed it. Dog is very lovable. And she's going to go find if there's a chip on it a little bit later today. But she says in her story that she found this, she's in Casper, Wyoming, near 17th and Beverly this morning. If you know anything about that, Miss Mary has the dog and is trying to find, some government agencies that normally take care of this are closed right now. So she's trying to figure out, how to proceed with this, and she'll do just fine. Mary Ann is in Cheyenne. Hello, whoops, oh, that's bad. Okay, I'm sorry, Mary Ann. I want to take your call, but you hear how that sounds, Mary Ann? That's horrible. We got to get that fixed. Something's wrong with the phone, so if you can hear that noise on there. So I'm going to go ahead and just get a hold of someone and say, come fix that phone, because we can't even take a call right now, and that's bad. That was, Miss Mary's saying, oh, God, that was worse than the last one. So I don't know who to call, but someone's got to come in and take a look at that. All right. You can still, though, send me a message. Use the Wake Up Wyoming app and just hit chat. And send me a text message, and I answer those. All right. Pacific Corp is mulling a breakup that could align Wyoming with other coal states, which would be a good thing. And I really hope that when Trump gets in office, we get us out of the whole carbon sequestration thing. That would also be really great news. I did, however, get a story from someone today, or during the course of the weekend, I think it was Dona up in Gillette, that one of the energy companies up there is trying to get into more carbon sequestration. We need to get out of that. But here's the story. Wyoming and Utah may get what they've been pinning for in recent years, a breakup of PacifiCorp. The electric utility giant has increasingly struggled to mesh pro-fossil fuel policies, organic fuels more properly said, coal, gas, and oil, favor with those states with wind and solar. It says clean energy, but wind and solar is not really clean. And to preferred places like California, Oregon, and Washington State. But what a corporate realignment, which is the company has not yet fully proposed, might look like, and what it might mean for Wyoming ratepayers remains unknown. Story says for now, the company will pursue its existing rate hike proposals. That means you, if you're listening, and otherwise make investments to continue to serve its customers according to utility officials. There's one thing for certain. It won't be all roses. Story says, like any breakup of a partnership or of any business, it's not cost-free. Pacific Corp Rocky Mountain Power resident Dick Garlish told the Utah Legislators and Public Utilities Energy and Technology Committee on Wednesday. Garnish, who took the helm of Rocky Mountain Power earlier this year, was grilled by Utah lawmakers as he discussed Pacific Corp's realignment report, a preliminary analysis by the lawmakers. Nearly 2 more years are needed to fully develop what that's going to look like and what that might mean for you Wyoming ratepayers, and right now you're going through rate increases and so on. So we'll find out how that looks also along with what happens once Trump gets into office. Because as Trump gets into office, between the BLM and the EPA and other such redundant, in some cases, government agencies, there could be a lot of change in regulations when it comes to power. One of the changes I would love to see, my fantasy regulation change, the EPA declared CO2 a pollutant and therefore started to regulate it. And I would like to see them get rid of that one. Whatever they do, though, your Pacific Corp wants to sort of split up into more regional and pursue energy that's needed for those various regions. So in other words, where we may be coal, gas, and oil intensive, we may be more so in the future. And states like California and Washington State that want to be more wind and solar intensive would be more wind and solar intensive. That's their plan, but they want to take about another 3 years to develop this plan. And I don't know, did they take a Trump administration under consideration when they started thinking about doing that? I'm not really sure. This is going to be interesting to follow over the next couple of years, or for that matter, once we get into 2025, to see what the Trump administration is really capable of, which I hope is a lot, but we'll see. There's a lot that we have to untangle here, and I think it can be done a lot faster than many of you think. It just depends. Trump has put a lot of good players in place here. Let's see what they can get done in just 2025 alone. 942, Wake Up.
Covering world-ending catastrophes for years to come. It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Find content, chat live, and listen on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino waiting by. Okay, Frank, it's Monday before Thanksgiving here,
yes.
Right? Okay, so here's how the work week goes. Now, today, some people will show up to work, but not everybody. And those people who do show up will scramble for the first part of the day to get actual things done.
Oh.
So they can take the rest of the week off.
Me. That's
yes,
me.
Okay.
I mean, matter of fact, I'm trying to get 3 days of work done 5 days of work done in 3.
Yeah, okay. Now, tomorrow, fewer people will be at work, not just with us, but other places. And tomorrow, less will get done.
And then Wednesday?
So it's a fake day.
Wednesday is a national holiday.
Yes. Wednesday's much
The bars
like,
are filled. The restaurants are filled.
Yeah. Anybody who does show up at and God bless those people who work restaurants and retail.
Oh.
Jeez. But for the rest of us who have other jobs, Wednesday is a fake day. It's like the last day of school when you're supposed to show up for class anyway.
Yeah, senioritis except for everybody.
Yes. Okay. Now, when we finally get to the after the showing up phase of Wednesday, many people need to find out what to do with themselves. Well, let me back up a little bit. Tuesday, people pretend to be busy.
Yeah.
Wednesday, by mid-afternoon, they're done pretending.
Well, and most of the employers are closing the doors at 3.
Sure.
Maybe
In fact,
even earlier than that.
Many of the employers are actually standing around, BSing with their employees anyway.
Yeah.
So they're not even
They're not even working either. Like,
not
get
even
out.
trying. No. Okay. Then of course, we all have Thanksgiving. Now there are some people who still have to work Thanksgiving. Believe it or not, there's not many, but there are some employees. Some places
emergency responders.
Yes.
People that work convenience stores.
Emergency responders include those people who work at grocery stores. For those people who show up at the last minute, my God, I forgot the whatever for the dinner.
Well, there's got to be somebody open.
Yes, those are the emergency responders.
And then Black Friday.
Now,
that's an emergency response, isn't it?
I watched a movie called Black Friday, and it was imagine it's one of those big box toy stores.
Oh,
and when they open up the doors, really early in the morning, pretty much midnight. And imagine if the shoppers, which pretty much act like a zombie horde, became a zombie horde.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the movie was, and it was hysterical. They intended it to be a funny movie, as the shoppers actually became a zombie horde. I highly recommend the movie. It was really just good stuff. For all of those people who will be working on Friday, and at retail.
God bless you.
God bless you. Frank, I've been there, done that. That was a long time ago.
I did it once, Glenn.
Yes.
And I won't do it again.
No, I
will
not.
It wasn't nearly as violent or out of control as it was portrayed to be.
Yes. I would rather become a homeless person than work a Black Friday.
Oh, it's terrible. College football from over the weekend. The Wyoming Cowboys did turn in a respectable performance against 12th-rated Boise State in Laramie on Saturday night, but the Pokes still lost 17-13. The Cowboy defense, especially with a makeshift defensive line, really showed some fortitude. They were physical. They played with an edge. It was good to see. Now, even though Boise State running back Ashton Genty had 169 yards rushing, got 61 of those yards on one touchdown run. That TD really hurt UW. The Cowboy offense got a first-half touchdown pass from Caden Anderson to Justin Stevenson, but Anderson left the game at halftime in concussion protocol, so back in the lineup was the original starter, Evan Swoboda. And his difficulties this year have been well documented. He was 6 of 13 for 87 yards in the second half, sacked twice, and still struggles with touch. Amazing as it sounds, Boise State at 10-1 played their worst game of the year on Saturday and won. Wyoming at 2-9 played their best game of the year on Saturday and lost. Cowboys conclude the season on Saturday at Washington State in Pullman. The NFL, the Denver Broncos are 7-5. They beat a horrendous Las Vegas Raiders team 29-19 on the road yesterday afternoon. Bronco quarterback Bo Nix 25 of 42 for 273 yards and a couple of TD passes. Denver rallied from a deficit at halftime 13-9. So the Broncos are making some progress here. They're in the playoff picture with 7 wins. They'll take on Cleveland next Monday night. Wyoming Cowboy basketball team beat Southeastern Louisiana on Friday afternoon in Laramie 64-61. So they are 4-1 on the year. The folks had a tough time shooting the basketball at just 37% and made just 5 3-pointers and 22 attempts. UW still struggled from the free throw line, shooting 57% from the charity stripe, but they tightened the screws on defense, and that always helps. They were led in scoring by Jordan Nesbitt with 13 points and 15 rebounds, and the Cowboys will be in the Cancun, Mexico tournament starting tomorrow, taking on Tulane at 4 p.m. Wyoming Cowgirl basketball team improved to 2-3 on the year. They drilled Colorado Christian Friday morning in Laramie 80-54. Allison Fertig led the way with 22 22 points for the Cowgirls on 10 of 12 shooting from the field with a dozen rebounds, so she was great. Cowgirls will be in a tournament in Puerto Rico this week. They will play Drake on Thursday, Norfolk State on Friday, and Virginia on Saturday. And that's it, sports.
I was debating, Frank, and you tell me what you think I should bring on Wednesday, since there's not going to be many of us here, just a few on-air personalities. A little coffee cake?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I think I did that last year.
Yeah, I approve. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, do you have a preference?
No.
Okay, I can just go pick up something
whatever
else.
you want, Glenn.
Yes, okay. Because there's certain kind of coffee cakes. You know the kind that on the top of it, you cut into it like a bread, but it has like a cream cheese up there and some fruits. Like a jelly.
Sold.
Frank likes food.
Sold.
Yes, done. All right. Have a good time, Frank. Yeah, okay. Well, I like doing stuff like that for people. We come in just days or a day before a holiday, and I'm the guy who brings in, let's bring a little coffee cake. Like Halloween, I had the candies here, stuff like that, and people usually appreciate it. Nobody's really getting any work done anyway, so let's stand around and sip coffee and eat coffee cake. It's Wake Up Wyoming.